takes place between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. Events occur in real time.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. It's FPC Radio Live. It's Thursday, which means we're only 3 days away from Super Bowl 56. That's right, folks. We do have a football game this weekend. It is the last of the 2021 season, and with the addition of the 17th game, I don't know the exact number of game count. Game number 260 something, right? Something like that, right, John? No, we're excited, obviously. The game is finally going to be here. We spent the last nearly 2 weeks talking about everything but actual football with everything that's happened, all the stories that have come out, all the little tidbits and articles and books and press conferences and all that. And we're going to continue to do that for just a little bit here today before we get into those top 10 defensive players in this game. And John, before we get there, and I know you mentioned it a little bit yesterday, and I'm going to mention it again today. Tuukka Rask, Bruins goalie, officially announced his retirement yesterday, and it's been a tough couple weeks for me personally when it comes to players that I root for and stand on the proverbial hill for, and that is Tuukka Rask and Tom Brady walking away.
Yeah, I mean, Tuukka tried to make this comeback, and maybe it would have been handled better if he just took the whole year off, rehabbed, felt better, then maybe tried it next year rather than doing it in the middle of the season. You know, would have given him an extra 6 months to rehab. But look, he's had an outstanding career. I think he is a guy who loved playing for the Boston Bruins. Mm-hmm. Teammates loved him. He loved his teammates. You know, he was part of the 2011 Stanley Cup champion team, although Tim Thomas played every game and goal in the postseason. And he had two nice runs in 13 and 19, won a Vezina Trophy, was, you know, really a good goaltender. Is he a Hall of Famer? I don't think so. But, you know, that's to be determined at a later date. And look, the two best goalies of this era, I could make a case, would be Henrik Lundqvist and, why does his name escape me? The Montreal goaltender.
Oh, Carey Price?
Carey Price, yeah. Why do I forget him? He's one of my favorite players. Those two guys are probably the best goalies of this era, and neither one of them has won a cup. So, you know, and then we've seen the Blackhawks won 3 cups with, you know, good, not great goaltending. So, but the goaltender is kind of like the quarterback, isn't it? It kind of get measured by how many cups they win.
And look, I mean, it didn't help Tuukka. I mean, there's unfortunately a few things, some in his control, others not, that just always kind of put him on an impossible hill to climb when it comes to some Bruins fans. I mean, it's you would, you know, look, you're right. I don't think he's a hockey Hall of Famer. You know, he has some great numbers. I mean, look, I mean, the career save percentage, Dominic Hasek is at .922. Tuukka Rask is at .921. I mean, look, and that's save percentage. That's not necessarily goals against. That can be a little bit more indicative of the goaltender's play. Now, again, obviously, save percentage, you know, has a lot to do also with the team in front of you, and Tuukka's obviously played on a lot of really good Bruins teams. But you don't just it's like it's like in football when people say, "Oh, just put talent." No, you just don't, you know, accomplish things with talent around you. You actually have to produce and elevate your game, and that's the same with goaltender. So you don't just stumble to a .921 save percentage. You have to be a really, really good goaltender. And, you know, despite not having, you know, likely the credentials to get into the Hockey Hall of Fame, he is certainly a guy that, you know, I hope over time is a little bit more appreciated within the Bruins organization, not the organization itself, but, you know, a segment of the fan base, because we know that there's just a really outrageously inappropriate and not in a, you know, immature way, but like just inappropriate because it just doesn't, it shouldn't happen, this type of criticism that he gets for not being a big game goalie, this, that, and the other. And that's just silly. And I hope those folks who have been saying that for years will sit back, realize how great of a goalie he is, because you can make an argument that he was the best goalie in Bruins history. And that's like, I appreciate everything Tim Thomas did for that. He was unbelievable in that run. run. Tuukka Rask is a better goalie. He's had a better career. He's had more sustained success. Now, again, you'll point to, one guy has a cup, the other doesn't. Well, again, are you going to blame him for the Bruins' defensive collapse in the final minute and a half against Chicago in Game 6, right when he was about to carry that team to a Game 7? No, I'm not going to do that. Now, again, when it comes to Hall of Fame credentials, yeah, you want to see a guy that's won a cup with him being the starter. That certainly factors. But when it comes to one guy being great and the other guy sucking in people's mind, that's absurd. Because again, I mean, Tuukka Rask was very clearly the better goalie between the two of them. Tim Thomas just had an unbelievable 2011 season, and there's nothing you can take away from that. So yeah, definitely a bummer. I wasn't expecting him to necessarily walk away, although it was a bit alarming that he was struggling, and obviously he, being very self-aware, realized, this just isn't going to happen. Because let's face it, I mean, the injury that he's trying to come back from is one of the worst injuries you could have as a goaltender. When you have hip issues and your entire, especially Tuukka, the way he plays the position, everything's centered around the hips, hip movement, hip flexibility, all that. And if you can't do that, you can't be the same player. And I think Tuukka realized that very quickly, and good for him, because, again, you don't want to, I'm sure the last thing he wanted to do is hurt this team in any way, shape, or fashion. So, I'm going to miss seeing number 40 out there, but, at the same time, I'm appreciative of what he did, and I think the Bruins are in pretty good shape moving forward with the goaltending tandem they have. They have other issues when it comes to the health of Patrice Bergeron, the suspension of Brad Marchand, but Tuukka Rask is, again, you can make the argument, the best goaltender in this team's history, and we're talking about one of the storied franchises in NHL hockey history. So hats off to Tuukka. I expect him to get his number raised. I know obviously there's going to be a group of people that push back on that. Obviously, again, based on nothing. I mean, really, their argument is based on just some weird distaste for Tuukka Rask. Again, I can't explain it. There's no real reasoning behind it. But at some point, he's going to get his number retired. With the Bruins, and I think he 100% deserves it.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen. You'll have several players from a Stanley Cup winning team and a team that's had a really nice run for the last 12, 14 years. They've been consistently, a team that at least gets to the second round of the playoffs, had 3 cup runs, won a cup, was always right in there. And, eventually you're going to see Zdeno Chara's number retired, Patrice Bergeron. I also think Brad Marchand will have his number retired at some point. And Tuukka, those will be the 4 guys from this run of the last 12, 14 years. I wouldn't go as far as say David Krejci, because then now you start to get into, where does it end? But no, a fantastic career. And again, as far as the injury, he's in his mid-30s, and it makes the most sense that for quality of life, you don't go back out there and re-injure the hip, and then, all of a sudden, the second half of your life, you can't really walk correctly. I know he likes to golf. Let him enjoy himself. He's made plenty of money. Seems like he's taking good care of it, and go enjoy yourself the rest of your life. I know he's a big golfer. Rehab that hip so you can get out there on the links sometime this summer.
Yeah, no, and good for him. And I know he really wanted to come back and give this another shot with this team and whatnot. But and it kind of speaks to what you said, how much he loves the Bruins and specifically the group that he plays with. So going from one guy that is mostly revered in Boston to one that is reviled or certainly not revered, Roger Goodell. He had his annual Super Bowl press conference yesterday, and if you're watching me on camera, I'm kind of scratching my head and pushing on the pressure points because I'm just getting a headache thinking about it. But I told you before we got on the air, there's not too many situations where you could use the phrase unmitigated gall when it comes to describing someone's actions or words or whatever. But from every angle you look at some of the things that Roger Goodell said yesterday, it was just, I was sitting there almost with my jaw dropped because first off, we talked earlier in the week about Spygate, or I'm sorry, not Spygate, Deflategate, and the nonsense that was, and some of the revelations we've seen from Mike Florio's new book about some of the details that obviously paint the NFL in a very bad light. His response, and I kid you not, was essentially, my dog ate my homework, because you know what he said? He said, "Oh, we don't know what happened to the numbers, but we know nothing happened. There's no violations." Well,
Right.
that's kind of the point, though. What he said was, I don't know if it was clever or if it was just dumb luck that he said it, but he said there were no violations, which again affirms exactly what the Patriots were saying. So obviously, I think it's very clear why those numbers got quote unquote lost or expunged as it was reported. And I tend to believe, as crazy as it sounds, I tend to believe Florio and the sources saying that they got rid of the numbers. The reason they did that was because it exonerated the Patriots. It backed up every single thing that they had said. And this is what those sources claimed was the reasoning by it. And for the NFL and for Roger Goodell to get up there with a straight face and sit there and say, "Oh, we don't really know what happened to those numbers, but nothing happened. Like there was no violations." Or like John, like what? Really? Really? Do you think we're that stupid? You know what I mean? Like he's talking to us as if we're at a very low intelligence level, and it's very clear. And the ironic thing is, it's likely the NFL office that has some issues when it comes to intelligence and investigations and stuff like that. So I was taken aback, John, by that comment, because it was just so absurd and it was such a blatant lie. I mean, it was so transparent that it was BS. I mean, and I'm kind of ashamed, John, that no one asked follow-up question. Why not dig into that?
I think a lot of questions that are at these press conferences are planted. Obviously, it's like, "Hey, you're playing a game in Germany next year. Let us know more about that." And no one really.
Oh, we lost John. So hold on, let me get him back real quick and get him connected. So yeah, I mean, it was absurd. I mean, he clearly lied. There we go. I think we got you here, John.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was me. Straight fingers. I hit the button. I think I disconnected you.
You thought I was Roger Goodell.
Yeah,
hung up on me. I get it.
Maybe.
But it's a case too where a lot of the questions in that press conference are planted. Commissioner, you're going to be playing in Germany next year. Let us detail that. And people really don't care about that. And then oftentimes they'll just see a journalist and say, "We're not giving them the microphone because we know they're going to prod a little bit." So, look, Roger Goodell is essentially Leslie Nielsen in The Naked Gun, right? In front of the fireworks factory as it's blowing up. He's like, "Nothing to see here. Please go home. There's nothing to see." And that's the way he handles things. I mean, that's why he makes $50 million a year. He's paid by the owners to, take the slings and arrows that they don't want to deal with. So he gets up there. I'm surprised it was on a Wednesday. I thought oftentimes the state of the league came on a Friday, but maybe they're trying to drum up business for the Super Bowl since no one's talking about it. There's not even the networks aren't even there. You would think that ESPN and Fox Sports 1 would have their shows from LA. I mean, I know Fox Sports 1 has a lot of their shows in LA, but you would think they'd build sets and have, presence there. We don't even see that. There's not much of that going on. Again, maybe COVID restrictions, what have you, kind of like last year, there was no Radio Row. But there's just absolutely no excitement for this game. So maybe Roger Goodell went out there, did performance art, and said, "Let me say some crazy things and get people talking about my sport, good or bad."
I think performance art is giving him too much credit. I just think he's just a habitual liar. I mean, with no shame whatsoever. I mean, because it's not just the Deflategate thing. He made a comment about the Washington investigation and how the league is going to now take control of it. First of all, why didn't you do that from the get-go? People were asking you, are you just letting Washington investigate themselves? Well, they didn't have an answer. They just decided, okay, now we're going to step in. First of all, how good is that anyways? But second of all, it's just way too late when it comes to making a stand and all that. And then second or third or whatever, I don't even know what number we're on right now. I'm so, just frazzled right now. But he said, and hold on, I actually think I still have the quote because I want to get this get this right. He said, his quote, and I'm delaying, here we go. I do not see any way a team can do its own investigation of itself, Goodell said. That's something we would do, and we would do with an outside expert that would help us come to the conclusion of what the facts were, what truly happened, so we can make the right decision from there. We'll treat that seriously. My God, are you effing kidding me? Those are the words that came out of Roger Goodell's mouth. Like, without blinking an eye, he said that. When they have on multiple occasions essentially investigated themselves. And go back to Deflategate. Guess who was the chief editor of the Wells Report? Oh yeah, guess what? Jeffrey Pash, the same guy who reportedly expunged the Deflategate air pressure data. So these statements are so just insulting to the folks that actually pay attention and understand what goes on in this league and what we've seen over the last several years when it comes to how this league and this front office actually handles investigations, whether it's football integrity related or just real life situations. They've screwed up every single damn investigation they have ever done. And you're going to sit there and tell me that you're the ones that are going to come in and fix this Washington situation? Good God. Like, I mean, it's insulting,
like in baseball,
John. It's insulting.
In baseball, you had the Mitchell report, and George Mitchell was on the Red Sox masthead. I mean, does that make any sense that the guy investigating steroids was part of ownership or part of management with the Boston Red Sox?
And that's a whole separate issue. But I'm talking specifically about the NFL and their just track record. I mean, just one after another of just failed execution, failed action, and failed just due process in an appropriate way. I mean,
go back to Ray Rice, right?
Yeah,
I mean, the whole Ray Rice
exactly.
Issue. And this whole Washington investigation, the only person who's paid for it is John Gruden, who, again, I'm not a big fan of, and, you know, good riddance, but he lost his job because of the Washington investigation. But nobody in Washington apparently did anything wrong because we don't know. We haven't been able to find out, and they're covering some things up, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, and again, it's like the NFL and Goodell, they lie with no sense of like they don't have any guilt about it. They'll get up there and just, you know, bold-faced lie. We lost a number. So you're telling me, John, let's go back to Deflategate. I'm like I said, I'm bouncing all over the place, but it's all centered around the same foundation of just how this league office operates. You spend 2 years and however many millions of dollars to investigate, prosecute, and drag your greatest player through the mud to lose the numbers. Like, it's 20, you know, at the time it's 2015. You're on auto save, okay? You don't just like lose work. Like you can be in the middle of a storm, you can lose power, your computer can explode, and guess what? Somewhere that document that you're working on, that article you're writing on WordPress, it's saved. It just doesn't disappear unless you physically go in and do it yourself. So am I to believe that some computer fairy came flying in the middle of the night, went into the computer, picked out all that data that they reportedly spent so much time and effort to collect, to make sure, to really make sure, John, that the integrity of the game was not, put into question. They spent all this time, all this effort. They made such a big PR push about it, only to lose the numbers. Oh, I don't know what happened. And not only lose the numbers, but to try to make us believe that you, as commissioner, somehow have no clue what happened to. Oh, I don't know. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. I mean, it is what it is. Like it's so frustrating because. Look, I understand. Like I saw some people saying, "Oh, the Patriots and Brady should sue," and look, there's obviously I don't know how much legal merit, but there is merit to the case that they're pushing. I just don't think they would ever go that far. But it just continues to be insulting to the fan base, to the organization, and most importantly, Tom Brady. who just a week ago, Roger Goodell put out one of his template PR statements that I'm sure was written by a robot about how great of a person Tom Brady is. Meanwhile, just 5-6 years ago, you were dragging this guy's reputation through the mud because you effed up, jumped to a conclusion, and did not have the guts to just stand up and say, yeah, they did nothing wrong. We're moving on. And here we are.
I mean, I look at the NFL as too big to fail, right? Like, I mean, it just
clearly. I mean, they should have failed by their own actions multiple times in just the last decade. But it's very clear that this is obviously not going to affect business, so they're not going to take it seriously. So that's why Roger Goodell could go up there, give his BS answered, and then 3 months from now sit in his like $25,000 leather chair and pretend to be one of us. He's just one of the guys sitting in his $50 million mansion on the coast of Maine, just watching his helpers do his work for him. And it's just it's frustrating, John. It's frustrating.
Yeah, no, it's again too big to fail. And he's the one who said ignorance is not an excuse, but apparently it is for him. Because he will say,
it's
"I
a
don't know."
foundation of how they act.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like the mob. Like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm a plumbing supply salesman. I have no idea what the mafia is.
Yeah. Hey, we just got the work order to tow this truck. We don't know what's in it.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. We just move product. Don't know what that product is. But yeah, I mean, it's laughable.
Yeah.
And then again, Sunday, 110 million people will watch, and advertisers will spend millions of dollars, and the networks are upping the ante with new contracts, and the CBA is going to go up, and it's almost as if everybody's just laughing at everybody else and getting rich quickly.
Oh no, that's exactly what's happened.
The Denver Broncos are going to go for sale for nearly $4 billion, and I'm sure there's people lining up to buy it. Which is pretty amazing.
I put my
put your bid in.
This is actually. It's a shame that I don't have this ready to go, because I used to use this quote quite a bit from back in the day. Actually, I think I have it now. So hold on just a second. Thank God this is on mute, because we're not going to get this stupid Olympics commercial, because who cares about that? So
Telegram.
Project Arcturus couldn't have succeeded without you. This will get you a little closer to that dream of yours. It's not the Dallas Cowboys, but it's a start. Drop me a line if you're on the East Coast. Hank Scorpio. Oh, the Denver Broncos.
I think owning the Denver Broncos is pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, explain to me why it isn't.
You just don't understand football, Marge.
That's great.
Oh man, I used to use that soundbite a lot, and unfortunately I didn't have it queued up here. But as soon as you said it, I was like, I can't believe I didn't think of this before, because I mean it's the Denver Broncos, but hey, $4 billion, it's not so bad.
No, I mean, and look, if they trade for Aaron Rodgers before the sale goes through, maybe the value of the franchise goes up. Yeah. I mean, I think it would, right? Because now you would be perceived as a Super Bowl contender for the next 2 years. So maybe that's
maybe an AFC Championship contender. We'll see about Super Bowl.
Yeah, you should contender. At least be able to get to that game. I mean, he didn't even get there this year in the NFC. So that would be
No, we're not here to knock on Aaron Rodgers. Not today.
I know.
We have
plenty of golf swing.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Golfing yesterday. It's good.
We do have a Super Bowl game to talk about, and I will, since we've had that nice little transition away from Roger Goodell, I will not continue on that, because we could spend the next, or at least I could spend the next hour or so going through all that. But we do have Super Bowl coming up, and yesterday, John, you and I ranked our top 10 offensive players. So naturally, what do you think we're going to do today? That's right. We're going to rank our top 10 defensive players. So this is obviously, I think we said yesterday, it's going to be probably very Rams heavy, I think, because of, I think we both agree that they have the better defense, and just, obviously they're just star laden team, so they're going to have a lot of great players. But the Bengals going through this and kind of, looking at it big picture wise, don't sleep on the Bengals. They have some really good players that are playing very well right now. You said it yesterday. They've been very opportunistic, and sometimes that's a little bit more important than being the better team. And in this game, all you have to do is be that opportunistic team to win. Excuse me. So maybe they do. Maybe they come through. Starting off for me, number 10, one of those guys that has really elevated his game and was certainly a big factor in the Bengals win over the Chiefs was safety Von Bell. So for me, number 10, my number 10 defensive player is Mr. Von Bell.
Yeah, he's played really well. I just left him outside my 10. I went with another safety for the Cincinnati Bengals, Patrick Bates III.
Mm-hmm.
I just like that name, Patrick Bates III. It sounds like an aristocrat or a British actor. He's always around the ball. I mean, he's either deflecting balls that lead to interceptions or picking it off. So I've got Patrick Bates III as a key member of the Bengals, and their safety play is going to be important, trying to make sure that the middle of the field is taken care of against Kupp and OBJ and the rest of the weapons the Rams have. Patrick Bates III, number 10 for me.
All right, for me, number 9, another Cincinnati. So we're starting off 2 Cincinnati players, or at least I am. Mike Hilton. Again, these guys are going to have to cornerback. They're going to have to elevate their game if they're going to obviously contain this Rams offense. And I think they're capable of doing it, and they have been doing it recently. And that's the most important thing. So coming into this game, they are obviously going to be a big factor. And I think he's going to have to play his best game of the season.
Yeah, he's also a solid player. Their secondary's played well. I mean, again, they pushed in the first half against Kansas City, and then they stepped up in the second half against Kansas City. And that happened twice this year, regular season and postseason. Number 9 for me is Troy Reeder, the Rams linebacker. Really good against the run, was big in limiting San Francisco to 50 yards rushing in the NFC Championship game. So I've got Rams linebacker Troy Reeder at number 9.
Number 8 for me, yet again, another Bengal. Maybe they're all just the bottom. And now I'm going through my list. I'm like, Jesus, maybe it's going to end up being 50-50 for me. Actually, no, I think it's 6-4 in favor of LA. Chidobe Awuzie. Again, I mean, these are guys that are elevating their games right now. When you again can contain a pretty, as much as I give him slack, a very explosive Chiefs offense, you're doing something right. And, again, another guy that's just going to have to do that against this Rams team, because if you take care of Cooper Kupp, you still got to worry about Odell Beckham Jr. If you take care of both those guys, you still have to worry about guys like Van Jefferson. So, so number 8 for me is yet another Bengal.
I've got a Bengal at number 8, Darius Williams, the cornerback. He can be over aggressive, but again, he's going to be in a tough situation, whether you're on Kupp or OBJ. Are they going to use him against OBJ and double Kupp? I mean, it's going to be a tough situation for the Bengals secondary. Key for the Bengals defense, obviously, put pressure on Matthew Stafford. That will speed things up, against Stafford, which he is prone to make mistakes. I've got Darius Williams, the Bengals cornerback, at number 8.
Number 7 for me is first LA Ram on the list, and one of several that will occupy the front 7 for the Rams, and that's Leonard Floyd. A guy who's surely obviously benefits from playing alongside Aaron Donald, and certainly has benefited from the arrival of Von Miller. This is the biggest factor in the game for me. If the Bengals offensive line and Joe Burrow can better his ability to avoid sacks than what he did against the Chiefs, they're going to have a shot. But this is a lot easier said than done against this team. So number 7 for me, Leonard Floyd.
Number 7 for me is DJ Reader, spelled differently than Troy Reeder, and also a different team. Bengals defensive tackle, kind of ties up blockers, does a nice job against the run, and also can maybe move the pocket inside, so that allows Trey Hendrickson to go ahead and do what he does really well. Top 5 in sacks for Trey Hendrickson this year, the free agent that they signed in the offseason from New Orleans. So I've got DJ Reader at number 7.
My next Bengal coming in at number 6, Sam Hubbard, defensive end. Just as important as the importance of the Rams defense is obviously in their pass rush. I mean, you can say the exact same thing with the Bengals. As good as their secondary is doing, they have to get to Matt Stafford. You can't let him sit there in the pocket and just, watch his receivers run routes, because eventually they're going to win every single time. He's going to have to play a big role into slowing down the offense. And the best way to do that is get the quarterback uncomfortable and off his position. So number 6 for me, Sam Hubbard.
Number 6 for me is Logan Wilson, Bengals linebacker. Really a guy who's a 3-down linebacker. Doesn't necessarily rush the passer all that much, but he's really good in the passing game, which, again, if the Rams are running some short routes, you may see Logan Wilson in there, just dropping into coverage and getting in the way. Really, really fine, solid player. Logan Wilson, Bengals linebacker at number 6.
And now that I'm kind of scanning over the rest of my list, actually, I'm quite surprised. I'm going to end up having more Cincinnati Bengals on this list than Rams. How about that?
Interesting.
That's crazy, huh? Number 5 for me, DJ Reader. You've already kind of talked about him. He was next kind of on my list. So we're kind of ballpark with him. So I don't have much more to add than what you have already done. So number 5 for me, DJ Reader.
Number 5 for me is someone you had a few slots ago, Leonard Floyd, the edge rusher for the Rams, who's in a really great situation. I mean, when you've got, Von Miller on one side putting pressure on, it allows Leonard Floyd to put pressure on the other side. And then, of course, you got Aaron Donald, who's causing all sorts of chaos wherever they line him up. I mean, that's a very, very talented front 7 for the Rams. I've got Leonard Floyd, the Rams edge rusher, at number 5.
Number 4 for me, Von Miller. We talked about him a little bit earlier this week and how his play is starting to resemble more and more his play of 2015. Now, again, it's not that to that extent, and it's certainly being helped out by playing alongside guys like Aaron Donald and Leonard Floyd and guys like that. But he's been great. He was fantastic against the Buccaneers. He was all over the field, getting into Tom Brady's face. So he's had a nice little resurgence here outside of Denver, and he's slowly climbing that list for one of those best defensive players in this game.
Yeah, I mean, he's an all-time great, right? I mean, MVP of Super Bowl 50. We know how he's played in big games. He's really stepped up here in the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
Great player. At number 4, though, I have Trey Hendrickson. I wanted to move him up a little bit. He's had a great year. I mean, this is one of the best free agent signings of the offseason. Taking him on for the Saints. I mean, you don't think of the Cincinnati Bengals signing free agents, but striking with Trey Hendrickson was a great selection, and he's lived up to that. 16 and a half sacks. He's put pressure on in the postseason. Trey Hendrickson, for me, is number 4.
See, and that's maybe where you might get a little surprised. Number 3 for me is Jalen Ramsey. Yes, that's right, Jalen Ramsey. He's several years back when he was the Jaguars. I think he was just undoubtedly the best cornerback in the league. Had I wouldn't even say rough couple of years, but certainly not on par with what he was. But now he seems to have been back to that, and he's playing like one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the league. And you got to tip your cap to him because, again, he's a guy who makes plays. And although he was beat for Tom Brady's last touchdown pass, which was a beautiful throw right over his head, and we'll leave it at that. But number 3 for me is Rams quarterback Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, he's sensational. I think he's slightly overrated. If that's, I'm not. Again, you can be a great player.
I can see. Yeah, I can see that. Well, because think about it. Back with Jacksonville, he was being called one of the. I mean, look, if you're going to ask me who is a better cornerback, him or Darrelle Revis, I mean, I'll say Darrelle Revis before you can finish asking the question. I mean, there's no doubt about it that he. This is just based on, the current landscape of the NFL now. He's one of the best in the league. Although, again, to your point, he was talked about as being a little bit better than what he was. So I do agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, he's a perennial All-Pro. Trending towards maybe a Hall of Fame career. He's outstanding. But again, I would take Darrelle Revis over Jalen Ramsey. Revis, to me, is the best cornerback we've seen in the last 15 years. Maybe even longer. He's that good. Number 3 for me, Von Miller. Again, he's older. At times during the regular season, it looked like he wasn't engaged. But man, since they put the bright lights on in the postseason, he's been Von Miller once again. So I have Von Miller, number 3, the Rams edge rusher, who can certainly blow up big games. We saw that 6 years ago against Carolina in that Super Bowl.
Yeah, and look, I mean, that's what great players do. I mean, they elevate their game when the pressure's highest and the lights are brightest. So number 2 for me is Trey Hendrickson. Again, his value to this Bengals team and maybe perhaps his importance in this game in particular have maybe caused me to elevate him a little bit. But I like what he brings to the table. I like his game. I like how big of an impact he can have. And he might have to be Cincinnati's most valuable player on defense when it comes to if they're going to win this game. So number 2, Trey Hendrickson.
He can blow up the game with his edge rush and also good against the run. He's a big time player. It was a great free agent signing by the Bengals. Number 2 for me is Jalen Ramsey, who's playing at a high level. Did a good job against Mike Evans in that divisional round until the last play where Evans beat him, and he can be susceptible to that at times because he is aggressive. And I think in this Rams secondary at times, I don't think they necessarily gear their defense to make him his best. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sometimes match up zones, and they don't use him to the best of their ability. But you know what? They're in the Super Bowl, so it's worked at some point. Jalen Ramsey, Rams cornerback, number 2 for me.
All right. Well, I'm guessing there's no surprise here. I'm pretty sure we all understood coming into this that I mean, the guy's the best defensive player in the league.
Yeah,
he's going to be the best defensive player in this game, and that's Aaron Donald. A guy that it's going to be interesting to see when it's all said and done where we, put his career. Obviously, a Super Bowl win would be huge. It's not as important to their legacy as it is for, say, a quarterback. But when you're talking about Aaron Donald, it's kind of like the conversation we were having with Aaron Rodgers earlier in the season. He can elevate his own personal stock by quite a bit by just winning this game and obviously having a big game. And, that doubly makes up for, kind of I don't even want to say it a subpar game against the Patriots in Super Bowl 53, but he got dominated at the line of scrimmage, which was surprising. Yeah, which was surprising to, just about anyone who was anticipating that, the matchups going into that game. So for him, this is going to be a huge moment for him. If they win this game, he is very clearly going to have a huge hand in it, both figuratively and, well, what did I say? Both realistically and figuratively. So, I don't think there's any question. There's no drama. There's no buildup. There's no suspense when it comes to who's the best defensive player in this game, and that's Aaron Donald.
Yeah, here's a guy who's been in the league 8 years, first team All-Pro 7 times, 3-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year. He'll finish very high this year. He may not win it this year. Maybe TJ Watt wins it or whoever, but he's going to be in the top 3. Just a menace, a guy who's so versatile because he's great against the run, puts pressure on the quarterback, can play inside, can play outside. Probably the best defensive lineman, although, J.J. Watt was great for a period of time as well. The one guy I will always put above Aaron Donald is Reggie White, who I think is one of the 5 greatest players in the history of the sport. Reggie White he was a freak. He was 6'5", 295. He could play anywhere on the defensive line. The Green Bay win over the Patriots in the Super Bowl 25 years ago. He was the most destructive guy on the field. He was just ragdolling people. He was that great. Aaron Donald's not quite Reggie White, but he's just below him, and that's how great Reggie White was. But yeah, he's the best defensive player in this game, and I think most people would agree probably the best player, at least the most accomplished at this point. 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. There's not a lot of guys walking around with those honors.
No, and look, all due respect, that's who he is, and that's why I said it's not surprising that we both have him number 1, and he's going to perform like that on Sunday. So, all right, that's going to do it for us today. Very well timed, or just about right at 10 a.m. So tomorrow, we are going to kind of do a little bit more of a deep dive into the game, and then of course give our actual game picks. I'm unlike Roger Goodell. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I have no idea who I'm going to pick yet.
No,
I have no clue because I've thought about it at the beginning. I've been talking up the Rams, but there's something in my gut right now, and it's not the Philly cheesesteak that I had last night. That's telling me maybe I should just go with the Bengals. It's just it's and there you have it. That's the intrigue of the game. So I have roughly, technically 24 hours from now I can wait till the very last minute of a show tomorrow until I make the pick. But we will give our picks tomorrow as to who will win the Super Bowl, and maybe we'll make some bold predictions as well as maybe our MVP prediction in addition to the actual score of the game. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Give us a follow on Twitter at FPC Radio Live. If you haven't already, check out our YouTube channel. It's actually very easy to get to now. It's YouTube/C/Full Press Coverage. Just check it out, search it in the search bar, subscribe, check out all the great stuff that we have going on here. So have a great Thursday, everyone. Enjoy your day. We'll be back tomorrow to break all of Super Bowl 56 down and give you the winner. Have a good one. We'll talk to you.